My Lord and my God, I firmly believe that you are here, that you see me, that you hear me. I adore you with profound reverence. I ask your pardon for my sins and the grace to make this time of prayer fruitful. My Immaculate Mother, Saint Joseph, my Father and Lord, my guardian angel, intercede for me. One of the toughest characteristics to pin down and to correct in someone can be passive aggression. And whether it's in someone else or whether it's something that we often can fall into ourselves, where somebody is actually being aggressive, but they're doing it in a very passive way. It's not what they're saying. A lot of times it's how they're saying it. Or it's not what they do, but it's what they don't do. And I worry that the gospel passage that we hear today can be sometimes a motivation for this when it's wrongly understood. Jesus said to his disciples, "You've heard that it was said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I say to you, offer no resistance to the one who is evil. And when someone strikes you on your right cheek, turn the other one to him as well. And if anyone wants to go to law with you over your tunic, hand him your cloak as well. And should anyone press you into service for 1 mile, go with him for 2 miles." And what our Lord is teaching in the Sermon on the Mount is not passive aggression. However, unfortunately, a lot of people can take it that way, that I'm going to follow the gospel, I'm going to follow the Sermon on the Mount, and so I'm going to be aggressive, but in a very passive way. That if somebody wrongs me, I'm going to retaliate, but I'm going to do it through being passive, through having an attitude toward them, through doing what they say, but doing it with a harumph, and just or even saying things, but with that tone. That's something parents know very well. When it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And so sometimes children can say something, and the tone that they use, you know, it's not, they're not being respectful when they do that. Or the particular part of the United States in which I live, sarcasm is like a second language. But that sarcasm is not good. It's not upbuilding. Sometimes in jest, if everyone knows that it's a joke, but it could be very could tear people down through what's said, that maybe you just can't pinpoint it, but it's that passive aggression. And Jesus, you don't teach us to be passive aggressive. And if your people, your Christians named after you, are exhibiting this behavior, that is a total distortion of what you teach. Because in the Sermon on the Mount, you're teaching us and all of us. The Sermon on the Mount is meant for every Christian. It's an instruction for every follower of Jesus Christ, not just a select few, but for all of us. And you teach us, Jesus, how to not retaliate. Not how to retaliate but passively, but how to actually not retaliate. How to not respond in anger. How to not have, I'm just going to select a different type weapon with which to hurt you. No, you teach us that we're not to retaliate. The law, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, actually comes from the book of Deuteronomy. And it's meant to be that if someone punches you in the eye, you only punch them in the eye, right? You don't punch them in the nose. You don't break their nose. Right? Or if they only knock out one tooth, then you can only knock out one of their teeth. And so it's meant to be a law against an over retaliation, that you don't have a punishment that doesn't meet the crime. But Jesus, you teach us not to do that at all. That we're not supposed to retaliate against those who do evil and who at times wrong us. That we're not to get back at them, definitely not by punching them in the eye or nose or tooth, but also just not to have this passive-aggressive retaliation, that we just retaliate, but we do it in a different way. No. Jesus, you teach us to not retaliate at all. That we as Christians take no revenge, ever. And that's what we're supposed to be as the people of God. That we do not take revenge. on those who wrong us. Now, the other side of this spectrum could be that we reject doing anything about evil, and that we don't want to turn away from evil, that we're going to let it just happen because I am going to not do anything. Jesus says, just turn the other cheek. So if I see evil in the world, I'm just going to turn the other cheek. I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to try to fix it. And that's the other side of the spectrum, which is not helpful. And that's not how we're supposed to act either. Rather, we do have the responsibility to correct evil when we see it, and the good practice of fraternal correction, that if somebody does something wrong or evil against us, that we want to correct them, but we never do it out of revenge. We never allow our correction to become a form of taking revenge on them. All correction, all fraternal correction, correction between Christians, is meant to be motivated by love. Because I love someone, I want them to become better. Because I love someone, they've done something wrong, and for the sake of their soul, for the sake of their happiness, I want them to know that what they did is wrong. I want them to be able to make amends for it. And therefore, when I correct them, it's motivated by that love that I have for them. It's not taking revenge. When somebody wrongs us, we don't seek revenge by correcting them and making them feel bad, because that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make them feel bad for what they did. And that is, again, that's a form of that passive aggression, to make somebody feel bad for doing something wrong. I know somebody who would be very happy when people would forget important dates in their life, like their birthday or their anniversary. They would actually delight in that, because then it allowed them to receive the guilt when the person realized it after the fact. So a week or two after the fact, oh, I realize I missed your birthday. And this person's like, great, I prefer that you feel bad about it rather than that you got my birthday right. And that's not a Christian spirit. That's so ridiculous to think that we want people to feel bad. So you do something wrong, and I want you to feel bad about it because that's my form of revenge. And that's not who we're supposed to be as Christians. And even when we say, oh, I forgive you, but that we're really delighting that the person feels bad, that all is a distortion of the gospel message. Rather, when we offer correction, when we see that something is wrong, we do it motivated not by revenge or retaliation, but entirely by love. That we remove ourselves or our feelings maybe from the whole picture, unless it's that charity that motivates all things. And we allow a correction to occur, always motivating that charity, never revenge. And how wonderful it is to be corrected in that way, that we know that the person who's offering us some advice or some correction is doing it not to get revenge on us, but to love us, to help us get better. This is how true Christians act when something goes wrong. I have a very good friend from growing up, and it was always the case that when there was an argument between us, it would happen in 3 parts. The first would be there would be someone would do something wrong, and we'd get into an argument, we'd get into a fight. And then the second part is the bad part. That's where someone apologizes, but they don't apologize in the right way, and the fight just gets worse, right? I'm sorry that you were so foolish that you did this, but I just had to get angry at you, and it ends up causing round 2. And then it's not till after that, time number 3, that finally a real, true, heartfelt, charitable apology could occur. And that was from growing up, and let's hope that he and I have both learned a little bit better charity since then, because that's not how Christians are supposed to apologize. Not just, I'm sorry that you're offended, but you were wrong. Rather, always motivated by love. Our mother, Our Lady, is the mother of mercy. Everything she did was always motivated by charity. And even when she maybe would have to make corrections, they were never retaliatory, but they were charitable and loving. So Mary, Mother of Mercy, teach us how to be merciful and loving so that we can follow the counsels of Jesus in the Sermon on the Mount. Never offering retaliation, but always correcting through charity and love. I thank you, my God, for the good resolutions, affections, and inspirations which you have communicated to me in this meditation. I ask your help in putting them into effect. My Immaculate Mother, Saint Joseph, my Father and Lord, my guardian angel, intercede for me.